Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai, croeso cynnes, and welcome to the next episode of What's Your Story. I'm really excited to have a guest from Llanelli, and for myself I live in Invaluable, which is a small little village just outside Llanelli, but I'm a Furness boy. I've played for Furness all my life, and the most fiercest of rivals in rugby is those of Trimsaran. And we have here a Trimsaran business owner. This lady has started her own community interest company, a company that is championing regeneration in the community. And she's also a sustainability expert. Today in the studio, I'm very proud to welcome the award-winning Mari Arthur. Diolch am dod.
Diolch yn fawr am gofyn fi.
Dim problem. So Mari owns Tetrim Teas, which is why I mentioned the link between Furness and Trimsaran. And if the guests listening are from Cardiff or elsewhere, they might not have a clue what I'm talking about. These are two big rugby rivalries in the town of Llanelli. But Tetrim Teas. And I've given a bit of a hint into the background of the name, but this is your real passion project that you're doing right now. You wear lots of hats, and maybe we'll talk about some of those hats later on. But your main focus is really igniting this business. And as of this recording, last week you won a Carmarthenshire Business Award for Startup of the Year, which, congratulations, llongyfarchiadau. So tell those who are listening and watching in a couple of sentences, what is Tetrim Teas?
Well, diolch yn fawr. It was thrilling to win the award, actually. We were really chuffed as a team. So Tetrim Teas, so Trimsaran, Tetrim, as you mentioned, is the heart of the business. I wanted to move home, set up a not-for-profit so we could hopefully bring jobs to the area, put money back into the area. At the moment, you mentioned the link to rugby. Trimsaran is known as Jonathan Davis country.
Yes.
Hopefully one day it'll also be known as the place they make tea as well.
Come on.
So that's my ambition. So we set up the tea company in Trimsaran because I think Carmarthenshire's got a huge amount to offer food and drink businesses anyway. Following Brexit and knowing that subsidies would be diminishing for Welsh growers and farmers, I thought if we could set up a tea company where we source everything locally, including the tea, and I'll come on to that, but then it would be great to work with Carmarthenshire growers and producers as well as Wales-wide growers to keep the money in the region and develop a local supply chain, as well as have a really good quality tea company where the tea is manufactured in the village.
Excellent. And I will say, start of the year was sponsored by Stori Cymru. So we had a lovely photograph of Amy, my wife, operations director, presenting you the award. And I knew about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I had to keep my mouth shut because I knew the winner. It was tough for you. It was a real tough category. There were so many good businesses. But fantastic for you to take home the award in what is a short amount of time. You've been running Tetrim Teas for how long?
Well, actually, we've only been selling, so we've only been commercial for less than 2 years, but we started it in 2021 because we wanted to do all the research and development first. So we weren't trading. So we spent 3 years developing the first blend with Aberystwyth University and doing clinical trials and doing all of that work.
Did you really?
Front first.
Wow.
And we launched the tea then in September 23. So that was our first rhubarb root tea. But just to go back to your point, I bumped into you several times and you didn't give anything away about us winning the award. So I was convinced we hadn't, and we were on the table with another amazing business, Tiny Tot Town.
And you shared a table with them?
Yeah, we were on the same table.
Lovely.
And we're hopefully going to go on to work together as well.
Amazing.
But so I was just convinced they'd won because I thought that...
They were fantastic. These three girls... I mean, your presentation was fantastic, right? These girls came in as sisters, and they blew us away.
They were brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm chuffed they had something. But I mean, they've won lots of awards in other places as well, which is a credit to them. But it's lovely to see that you were sharing the same table.
And hopefully go on and work together.
And that's amazing. And that to me is probably, it's the example of businesses working together and putting money into the local economy. I'm sure we could talk a lot about that later, because you've got strong views on that, which I fully support as someone who is championing Welsh businesses and the people of Wales. But lovely to see you had sharing the table with Tiny Tots Town. I'll have to have them in here. That's actually a great idea. That'll probably be a very long episode. They talk a lot. They talk a lot. But thank you for sharing that. And you came up to me in the bar just before the awards started, and I thought, oh no, I got to speak to Mari now. How am I going to keep it in? But I said something and made you think you didn't win, which is even better.
Oh, I was convinced. I went back to the table and I just said to Mandy, we haven't got it.
There we go. But award-winning note, fantastic. So talk to me then. Tetrim Tea, obviously passionate about the area, Trimsaran. Were you born and raised in Trimsaran?
Yeah, born in Trimsaran and lived there most of my life until I went away to work. So I've worked around Nottingham, North Wales and Cardiff, but always knew I wanted to come home. Family have always been there. I've always gone home most weekends. But the plan was always to come home to retire, but I came home a lot earlier than that.
You say, you don't look like you're retiring.
Not quite. I don't think I'll ever retire. But I say retire, I always wanted just to come home, but I thought, there's not the jobs for me. I'll have to chase the jobs. I've always chased the work. I've always worked really hard. But that's why it's so good now. I'm coming back with work in me and hopefully bringing opportunities to the village, because that's what I want more than anything. It's a deprived village, it's a deprived area. And we've got so much going for us, all the local farming, growing communities. It'd be great to support them and develop a product, a high-end product that gives jobs to the local community as well. We work with the eco school in the village. We give them tea plants that they grow. And I just want them to see that there are opportunities around growing and food and the drink sector that are linked to Welsh language as well, because we have a Welsh language policy in the business as well. We want to show those children in the Welsh language medium schools that there are reasons to continue with their Welsh language, because there are jobs associated with it at the end as well. So trying to do a lot for a tiny, tiny little business.
But it's surely making a big impact, because that'll grow and snowball. But we're hearing some of the successes you've already had and will have with Tetrim Teas. But I want to go back to the product itself, because I don't think many businesses spend 3 years on R&D and research before launching a product. A lot of people just set up a business, they go out there and wing it and go for it, which I think that in itself is admirable. But it's great to know that you did your homework. So take me back, to the start and the inception of the research. Why did you come up with the concept of this tea? What was the reasoning for starting Tetrim Tea?
So it goes back many years. My background was working in China. Obviously, teas are massive in China. There's a health tea for everything in China. And then I opened a Chinese-style health spa in Cardiff, and we used to import Chinese teas, and people would buy them for gut health or for slimming or for sleep. And so there'd be a different market for health teas. And then following Brexit, as I said, and thinking about what I could do to support Carmarthenshire, I was thinking those teas are so popular in China. If we could develop a health tea in Wales from Welsh ingredients, obviously my background wasn't in food and drink, so we worked with the experts, so Aberystwyth University, Aber Innovation, BIC Innovation, and we basically reverse engineered our first tea. So they did then not genetic fingerprinting, they did fingerprinting on the active properties of the main ingredient in the tea I was looking at, which on the plant senna wasn't indigenous to Wales. So I wanted a plant that was grown in Wales already and they matched it to the active properties in a number of other plants. And I selected rhubarb root as the plant I wanted to go with to base the tea on. Because
so they were able to look at this Chinese tea, work out what's in it, and then come up with fascinating.
Yeah, obviously I've worked in China for years, and they're very good at reverse engineering our intellectual properties and turning it into
very good
profit. So we thought, well, we've done it the other way around. So the rhubarb root, obviously, rhubarb's grown plentifully in Wales, and the root is a byproduct. So every year, when you're farming rhubarb, you cut half the root and you replant it and you discard the other half. And so we buy the waste, plant it, and we use that then for our main ingredient in our
waste
rhubarb
is the roots
tea.
themselves?
Yeah, so half the root is discarded because they grow so big, they have to shave them down and replant them. And so we grow, we use the rhubarb root that's grown in Wales, and we've learned process around how to prepare it and dry it and use it in our tea. We learned that in partnership with the university. But then I wanted to make sure that our tea was as good, if not better, than the one we were looking at in the first place. So I didn't want to go to market with something that hadn't been tried, which is why this all took so long. So then we got funding by the Welsh Government to do clinical trials on the rhubarb root tea version. So we had 56 participants in Trimsaran. Aberystwyth had never done a clinical trial out of the university before, and in fairness to them, I said, we need to do it in the community. They came to Trimsaran. They ran a 21-day clinical trial. So people gave blood samples, stool samples and diet sheets before and after the 21 days. And after 21 days, the university concluded that our tea was the only one that reduced cholesterol significantly after 21 days, and it maintained all the healthy gut bacteria as well, was the original tea with senna in, disrupted the gut bacteria and didn't have an impact on cholesterol. So we'd kind of stumbled...
So that other tea was healthy tea, but not really doing much.
Yeah, the other tea made you lose weight, but it was very short term. It was senna, which is very disruptive to the gut. Whereas our tea wasn't as disruptive. It kept the healthy gut bacteria there. And it doesn't make you lose weight quickly. It gets rid of fat in the lipids, so in your blood. So you might be slim and have really fatty organs, which is the dangerous thing. So everyone, is unaware of how fat their organs are. And that is what leads to high cholesterol. So this tea reduces the fat in the lipids. So it's not a slimming tea, it's a health tea because it promotes a healthy body. And then what happens is as well, because you drink it at the last point of the day. So after your last meal of the day, you drink the tea. And we encouraged all the participants, and we encouraged with our packaging, use that time to relax, leave it brew for 5 to 7 minutes and inhale the aromas and just have that time to relax. And you're not eating anymore, you've got nothing else to do. Just take that time to relax. And people's habits changed as well over time, because they said it stopped them snacking after they'd had their tea. They wouldn't snack anymore. They relaxed more. They felt cleaner inside. So anecdotally, we had benefits to report as well as the clinical data. So that's why we took so long to launch our first tea.
Wow. That's incredible. But that is that's how you do something right. I love that. The university wanted to do the research in the university, be like, no, you got to come to Trimsaran, come all the way from Aberystwyth. Was it Aber who did the R&D?
Yeah, and since then they've run 2 other clinical trials in Trimsaran, nothing to do with me.
Other things?
Two other products, one on joints, on cucumber extract, and it was for an older population, and they held it in Trimsaran because they now got a willing cohort. And another one on brain health, and they were doing, the caps that pick up signals on the brain and all of that there as well. And that was over, I think, 6 months. So we will eventually be the healthiest village in Wales.
There's a lot of old people in Trimsaran.
A lot of old people with good joints and good
old
cholesterol.
Old people with good joints and good cholesterol. Wow, fantastic. But yeah, you did all that good, solid homework. And I think in any kind of business, laying a strong foundation is important to the longevity and to sustain a good business, for sure. So you've set yourself up for a win and you started trading. So talk me through that journey. What's it been like? then starting a trade, and then the work you've been doing in Trimsaran over these last 2 years?
So we traded on the same day that we launched our community initiative as well, because we're a not-for-profit, we want to give back to the community, and we don't want to do that when we're making money. We want to do it from day one. So at the same time, we launched Tea, which is a group of ladies in the village that meet every Thursday, and Helen is our community lead, so she organises talks for them or trips for them, or they just come together. They have our teas for free there, and it's just a point of contact for those people to come together. A lot of them were more isolated from COVID. Some of them had lost their husbands during COVID and were feeling very lonely. In fact, one woman, an owner, says that, it's changed her life being part of that group, because she's back in society now. That got her the confidence to go to other activities in the village. So that's ongoing. And obviously we started selling the tea as well, and got in touch, got the projects with the Eco Committee in the village. And then on top of that, we started doing research on our next tea. So we, in the partnerships we'd made developing the Rhubarb root tea, we wanted to develop the next tea, and we met Madar Cymru, the mushroom expert of Wales, Canan Jones, and the team in Aberystwyth University. And they were all keen for us to do something with lion's mane mushroom, because it was just becoming known. It's blown up since then. So we did a year and a half's worth of research on lion's mane mushroom teas, and we developed a number of different blends, and we've gone to market with 2, because we've had sensory testing done and couldn't choose between the lion's mane with chilli, cardamom and ginger, which obviously is very strong taste, which puts some people off. You either love it or you don't, if you don't like chilli. And the other one is a Welsh heritage apple and cinnamon lion's mane mushroom tea. So 2 very different teas. So we've been developing those in the background while selling our teas in retail shops and online. And then we launched that then in 2024, while we're developing our next tea, which was Welsh spring hedgerow tea. So that's plants that are grown in the hedgerow during springtime in Wales.
I remember meeting you at an event where I met you, and you were discussing with the lion's mane. So you've now launched a 3rd tea.
Yes, so the lion's mane as well, with the partnerships we had, and we were lucky to get SPF and ADFOD funding. We've now opened 3 mushroom growing units around Wales.
Wow.
So we've got one in Trimsaran, one in Penparca in Aberystwyth, and one in Bethesda in North Wales. So we've got 2 mushroom growers in each, and we're growing the lion's mane ourselves, and we're growing wood oyster mushrooms and shiitake mushrooms. And we also powder those now from Madar Cymru, and we're also producing a range of powdered mushrooms as well on the back of the partnerships, really. It's just about being open to opportunities, isn't it, in business?
Yeah. Incredible. Fantastic. Yeah, there's a big opportunity within dehydration of foods, isn't it? Because I love mushrooms, and I've connected with lots of other people who are working in that space. And fresh mushrooms, great, and they taste the best, but they have a limited shelf life. So to then see the opportunity to crush them, to make them into powders for other things like teas, is a great way of utilising that, because when you dehydrate these foods, they have a longer shelf life.
Yeah, and some of the active properties actually increase when they're dried as well.
Really?
So lion's mane mushroom obviously is good for the brain, for memory, for mental health. And it's also got sort of vitamins and other properties in them. Then a lot of the research Aberystwyth University have done has proven that with shiitake mushrooms, lion's mane, a lot of the benefits increase as they're dried as well. So you've got the shelf life and the benefits. Because
thinking about that scientifically, you're drying them. How do they improve the benefits?
That's beyond my BA brain's ability. That's why I work with the clever people.
That's why you work with experts. That's fascinating, because I don't know too much about the process, but you're just drying it out, so you think that it's leaving moistures.
But I suppose what it does, I'm just thinking about this now and it might be completely wrong, it condenses it, because mushrooms go down to 1/10 of their size. So if you're drying fresh mushrooms, you're only left with, say you've got 100 grams of fresh mushrooms, you're left with 10 grams of dried mushrooms.
It's intensifying that.
Yeah, so in a pot
maybe
of 30 grams of lion's mane powder, for example, there's actually 300 grams of mushroom in there. Maybe that. I don't know.
That could be it.
Could be. We'll go with that.
But she's not a mushroom expert. Even though she lead Madach Cymru, you're involved in that.
Yeah, so we're partnered with Madach Cymru and with the university and with Clebri, who do a lot. They're growing tea for us as well. Now they're growing tea plants in Powys for us as well. So that's a new industry we're trying to work with local growers on. We're working with local farmers and trying to get them to see the value of their waste products. So with our spring hedgerow tea, we've got dandelions, we've got nettles and mint. We're trying to let local farmers know that we'll buy it from you. You know, normally it's got rid of as weeds and use of valuable land. Well, we'll buy that from you, but also trying to highlight the fact that you can grow tea in Wales. And tea has got a huge markup. You know, the tea companies in Wales and England at the moment are selling their green tea for £2,000 a kilogram. So it's a huge market opportunity as well that I'd love. We don't want to grow anything. We've got enough to do with sort of doing the research and the development of product, but we'd love to work with more local growers who also capitalise on the opportunity of growing teas, not just for us, but for other markets as well.
That's something that for us as Wales, we have a lot of land, we have a rich history in agriculture, and if you look at farming as an example, I know personally so many farmers, whether that be dairy or beef, and they're just not making money. They're making losses every year. It is a tough world to be in because it's a race to the bottom, selling their goods, whether that be milk with dairy parlours or whether it's cattle for livestock. It is tough being a farmer. And I think we've got all this land in this country. There's an opportunity here to grow our own food. Have you met Simon Wright?
I've been in touch with him. I've met him online and I've been in touch with him. So we are speaking.
Put you in touch with Simon. We're working with Simon from Wright's Food Emporium, and he's commissioned us to do a series of films for Cig and a Pobol, which is a community interest company. I don't know whether he owns or runs it, but it's his project. And we've had a good chat to Simon, and I think he is hot on the statistics and the numbers when it comes to food. So he's very passionate about schools, right? The food system in schools is broken.
Yeah.
Young children can have nutritious meals in schools that are at the same time delicious. And what young people aren't getting is they're getting the nutrition because there's an obligation to give them X amount of protein and fats and carbohydrates, and you've got that obligation, which is probably set by Welsh government, managed by the local authorities. But then if you're a dinner lady in a school and you're hearing this, there are some schools that do very nice food because they take ownership and try and improve that system. And all this came from Simon asked me to film a music video for a group of 10-year-olds who set up their own band in a school in Nantgaredig. Coron Moron, that's the name of their band. So we filmed a music video about Cawl. That was the name of their song. And they've now since, I don't know whether it's past, but certainly this summer, they're performing at Green Man, which is quite a big music festival. So you got these group of kids who are now performing on a stage, which is incredible. But Simon's really passionate about that. But I think one of the things he's mentioned to me is we have all the resources available here in Wales to grow our own food, 100% of it.
Yeah, and that is something that I'm trying to link to through the supply chain for us as well. And we are stocked in Wright's Emporium as well, the teas. Maybe it's an opportunity for the mushrooms as well.
Simon, get some mushrooms. There's lots of cool things in there. But yeah, I don't want to talk about all your hats here today, because if I was to talk about each hat you wear, we'd have about 10 podcast episodes, I think, because you're a very busy woman. But something you're really passionate about, I think is evident here, in trying to regenerate a community in Trimsaran, is keeping jobs local, keeping money in the local economy. Because here in Wales, we have lots of industry and sectors that utilise our land and our spaces to then put money into other people's pockets outside of Wales. So that's something you're really passionate about. And for yourself as an expert in sustainability, you're really championing that cause and fighting for Wales in lots of these other communities and chairs that you sit on. So have you got something you want to share or maybe educate the audience about maybe what's already been happening in Wales for some time?
I think it's just awareness. I think we need to focus on keeping like the Welsh pound in Wales and the Sir Gar pound in Sir Gar. And to do that, it's just about awareness of the way the system works. And it's simple at the end of the day. It's about buying from organisations that are local, but also where they're headquartered in Wales. So, for example, you might have a successful Welsh business, a Welsh brand, they employ people, they speak Welsh, but their headquarters is in Bristol or London, then none of the tax of that company would come back to Wales. It wouldn't be put in our pot to come through the Barnett formula, which fails us anyway. The Barnett formula isn't fit for Wales. So for me, it's about being aware that if we buy a service or a product from outside of Wales, then the profits never get returned to us in tax. It's not quite that simple, but essentially it doesn't matter. It does matter where people are employed, obviously, but it matters more to us to become a richer nation, to have companies that are based in Wales. And a good example of that is renewable energy. I'm all for renewable energy, but not at any cost. I mean, for me, it's about supporting our communities today as well as for the future. And renewable energy is all about, decreasing our climate impact for the longer term. But I need to know the projects I'm involved with are bringing benefits to the communities that they're based in. So when we've got overseas companies coming in, building renewable energy projects, wind farms, solar farms, and all that profit is draining out of Wales, but it's using our resources, and we're not really getting benefit other than a bit of compensation by community benefits. For me, that's extractive economy, and we've been through that with coal, and we should have learned that lesson, but we're going through it again. And the whole argument about pylons, it's because all of this has been done to us and we don't have control. Whereas when we look at community energy, and I chair 2 community energy companies, Any Sir Gar and Any Teg, it's more about community involvement and decision making, keeping power and profits in the communities. So then we would decide on how that power is exported and what happens to it and the decisions around it. So for me, it's claiming back control and still building the renewable energy projects that we need. I'm not against renewable energy projects, but I believe that they could do a lot more than just bring down our carbon footprint and help in terms of climate change. I think they can regenerate communities today and for tomorrow and for the long term. That's what the Future Generations Act is all about. You're looking at the long term, and extractive projects like that are for today, and they're not looking at the benefit for Wales and for those communities in the long term. When those projects end in 25, 30 years' time, what will we be left with then? So that's what I'm trying to focus on. My spare time is trying to bring awareness to community energy and the benefits you could have, today as well. You buy shares in community energy, you get much more interest than you would in the bank, for example. So it makes economic sense, as well as bringing profits and benefits back to those communities.
Wow. That's, it's a great insight for me as someone who, loves the idea of renewable energy. I've never thought to ask that question of, who owns that solar farm? Or who owns that wind turbine? So, community energy, that's a great concept in still having and achieving renewable energy in that community, but also that the money stays in that community. It makes total sense. It's a win-win, isn't it, truly?
It is. And I think it's about understanding that. And I think people would be more prone to supporting projects that went on in their areas if they know they were benefiting that area. Yeah. And when you look at a wind, like you say, when you look at a wind turbine, so you've got one wind turbine there, one wind turbine there, you wouldn't know the difference. But when you find out that one is exporting energy, outside of Wales, and also none of the profits stay in Wales, whereas this one is designed to keep the energy local and the money local, you just look more fondly on that one then, because you feel ownership of it and you feel that it's enriching your life in some way.
So talking about the energy, not the consumption, the production of the energy. So if you let's take that example of two wind farms. One is community owned. One is owned by a Swedish company. Let's say they're out of the UK. Because to me, my understanding would be the energy is created, it goes back to the grid. Is that still the case?
Still the case, but with more local projects now, we're looking at ways of having maybe direct wires, or you can have energy local projects. So in Bethesda, North Wales, if you've got so many people within, it's almost called like behind the meter, so it's within a substation, then you can decide to use that energy for yourselves. You generate it and use it. There are different models. They're more complex, but you could have, say you had a couple of wind turbines here and you had a big factory next door. You could export to that factory and then they would pay you for that power. So instead of it going into the grid and the grid having control and maybe paying you not to turn the turbines because they had a peak time, so it gives you more power locally. So you could have direct wires, you could have, they're called local energy projects. So there are other alternatives that you could look into then to see what you wanted to do, or you could just directly export to the grid and then you just get paid for that energy and do what you want with the profits in your area. So there's different models you could look at then.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about directly creating electricity, because I always think it goes back to the grid, but you're able to then create these developments so that they can power. It's like sticking a plug in the shop down the road. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
In that analogy.
And you can have battery storage as well. The future is going down more of the route of storage. So once you've got storage opportunities, you could have estates of houses or streets of houses that benefit from projects. Or you could have pooled energy. They all have solar panels on their roof. And instead of just feeding individual houses, it would feed the street. And those are projects that are now being invested in and being looked at. Any Take, for example, is looking into just that, where communities can benefit from, joint generation, and then you store the energy and then you have it back at the times when you want it, instead of only benefiting at the time when the sun is shining.
Yeah, fantastic. We could spend all day talking about all these different things, but for me, as someone who is passionately Welsh, as a Welsh speaker, I'm very proud of this country, and I can't think of any better place to live. It's incredible to see and hear about the stories, what's going on. It's something to consider when we're buying things as well. And I think I've been focusing about that more and more lately. It is really important to buy local, because you're keeping that money into the local economy. And we're going to fail in sometimes, because it's impossible to shop local for everything, because these local providers will not have everything, but it's best to do that where possible, isn't it?
Yeah, we can make decisions about our own lives where to buy, but we can also put pressure on public bodies to make sure they're buying, because they buy in bulk. So our influence is limited when we're looking at our own households and our own decisions. But if we think of the local authority or the health boards or, the schools, if we had them purchasing local food, for example, Simon Wright's trying to do local energy, the local authority could decide to buy local green energy from projects in the community. It's putting pressure on our public services to do the right thing, because that impact is far greater, and their pensions, they're going into the right places. And there's a lot we can do, and we're aware of it for ourselves, but also we should say to our elected representatives, our council, our health boards, our hospitals, where are you getting your electricity from? Where are you getting your food from? Where are you getting your posters from, for example? Are you buying those locally, or is it, outsourced to London or China or, cheaper countries? Are you trying to put pressure on them to look at every decision they make and make sure that it's enriching the communities that they're based in?
Keep asking questions then.
Yes, be aware and challenge and demand.
So I'm going to ask you a question. Did you bring me some tea?
I was going to bring you some tea. I was going to bring you all of our teas, and I thought you could taste them all.
Here it is. I paned o de. I've got some of this special tea in my cup now. Oh, I can feel the lipids reduce.
I will bring you some tea.
Bring me some tea. I love coffee. I'm a coffee guy, but this is a different type of tea, isn't it?
Yeah.
For your health. But yeah, I'd love to try some. But thank you for sharing a bit of a whistle-stop tour history of Tetrim Tea. And I'm educating the audience now, because a lot of people call you lots of other things, do they? Tetrim Tea?
Yeah, and we don't mind. It's, it's getting the name out there, however you say it.
It's all marketing, isn't it?
Yes.
Tetrim Teas. We've gotten to your own story about how you've set up this business, and we're all about stories here on What's Your Story. And I'd love to hear, Mari, if you could spend a moment to listen to somebody else's story, potentially somebody that's inspired you, influenced you in your business journey. Who might that person be?
Since I was 13 and I fell in love with Elvis, I've never really bought any other music, and I just live for Elvis. I've read books about Elvis, I've seen his films, and just listened to his music all the time. I'd love to hear his story.
Elvis Presley. Well, that is a first. We've never had that on the podcast, but yeah, fantastic.
Love him.
Love Elvis, the king of pop.
King of rock and roll.
King of rock and roll. No, Michael Jackson's the king of pop, isn't he? They're fighting for the titles. But yeah, fantastic. What an influence in the music world, wasn't
Absolutely.
he? Still to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Wel, Mari, diolch I ti, diolch am dod.
Diolch yn fawr.
Byddai'n neis gael sgwrs yn Gymraeg, siwr o fod.
Yeah, tro nesa falle.
Tro nesa. That's something I'd love to do. I'd love to do some Welsh episodes, but yeah, I think we've got a large audience who are English speaking, so trying to include them is quite a challenge, really. It's a challenge in my industry, creative industries, to have that sort of technology available. There's AI for English translation and subtitles and all that. Yeah, brilliant. But in Welsh, very much behind that technology. So if we could have live captions in English with a Welsh podcast, that would be class.
In the meantime, drop some Welsh words in.
Well, that's what I try and do.
Yeah, exactly.
A siomai, a croeso, diolch yn fawr, all those little phrases.
And story is story.
And story yn Gymraeg yw story.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. Mari, diolch I chi am dod. If anyone wants to buy your tea, or they want to hear more about the work you're doing, where's the best place to find out more about Tetrim Teas?
I suppose the easiest place is online, tetrimtea.com. We sell in Wright's Emporium and the Warren in Carmarthen and in Trimsaran, and different outlets. And we're in a lot of shows. We're in the Royal Welsh Show, and we're in Cowbridge at food festivals. So we're out and about a lot. But the website is probably the easiest place to find us.
Well, arbennig, diolch am dod. Yeah, I really enjoy listening to your story, Mari, and I'm excited to see where Tetrim Teas goes. And even if Trimsaran are a better rugby team than Furness now, that's absolutely fine. They're in a higher division as of next year. But yeah, it's great to hear that this deprived community in Trimsaran is being revived through one little business with one little cup of tea at a time. So diolch am dod.
Hopefully. Diolch yn fawr.